everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm here with another plan with me in my 52 weeks of Halloween planner, and we're gonna use this Scream kit from Scribble Friends Go. So I was on a podcast binge this last week, and yeah, this is our normal Friday video. We had one on Monday, so if you didn't get to see Monday's video, this is what the kit that we used looked like. It's our April horror box. Okay, we're doing that, and just to give you guys a show, this is what this current week is currently looking like. Very bright and wonderful. So we've got this upcoming week, and then we've got St. Patrick's Day. So this one is going to be for March 20th through the 26th. So here we go. All right, so I was literally on a podcast binging field day this last week, and it got me like kind of thinking like, oh, I mean, we all have our favorite crime podcasts and whatnot, but I love true crime. I don't know of anybody that, wow, why did I grab the small one? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know of anybody who doesn't like true crime. I mean, granted, I guess my husband doesn't really like it and is always like, why are you listening to this stuff? But he's my husband, so. But I love it, and I love listening to it. In fact, I listen to it all the time when I'm working, and it's just something that makes me happy. The time goes by. I've kind of fallen off of my audiobook bandwagon, and that is just because I haven't really had a need to read anything. I mean, granted, that's not really listening to anything. I did do a couple of books. There is one book that I definitely want to there's definitely one book I've got to listen to. It's already in my library, so we're good there. But I just haven't really had like that dedicated time. So most of the time I listen to audiobooks when I'm cutting, but however, Steve's been doing a lot of cutting for me. I don't really have that need. And when you're constantly being asked questions, and by whether it's kids who need schoolwork or him as he's still learning how to do the cutting, it's hard to get into an audiobook because you need that time to like really think those aspects through, right? So there's been those things, and it's easier to pause a podcast and jump right back into it than it is to pause a book. So that's kind of where I am at with that. So I don't know. We have some travel that needs to be done I don't know exactly when the travel is going to be happening, but I just know that we have some travel that needs to be done. So that might be when I actually get to listen to my audiobooks. But then again, if I'm driving, I really like to listen to my podcast. So that's kind of just really what I've been, and I'm out of 25. Wow. Forgot to grab that one when I went to go grab my 9s earlier. Oops. That's okay. I will put it on after we're done. It's not that big of a deal. So, but yeah, I like to listen to my podcasts when I go for a drive, like if I am the one that has to drive. So that makes, since the kids are usually always in the back with their video games or watching a movie, that just works for me. All right. But yeah, I just was sitting here thinking of like all the different podcasts and the things that I listen to, and I was actually going to talk about one of the stories that I listened to because I had never heard of it, and it was such a weird one. I mean, it happened in like 2007, 2008. It was early 2000s time frame, right? Before 2010, I can tell you that. And now I can't remember the young lady who it was about. I can't remember her name. She was from India. She won a competition here in the States. And it was about a Halloween party and basically kind of like a whole cold case type thing, because they thought they had the murderer, but it was one of those things of DNA testing going wrong. And it generated up a lot of thoughts for me, because as somebody who has gone to school and worked, you know, into a science related field, although I know a lot of people wouldn't agree that it's a science related field, it is. We still have to deal with the scientific method. I just like sitting here thinking about DNA and all of the things that, you know, happen or that can happen with DNA and how amazing it has been. I also have to be reminded, and I wish that more of the court systems would remind themselves that just because you have DNA, especially when it comes to what they call touch DNA, trace DNA, that we're still evolving, and we can't always, like, how am I trying to phrase this? That you can't just put all your eggs in one basket, because as science is a constantly evolving process. And I mean, we've had many a people who have, okay, how do I want to do this? Okay, I think I know how I want to do this. All right, I need, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm gonna have, I think I'm gonna put all of the girls on this side. I'm gonna put all the girls in the column. But anyways, we've had many people who were, you know, wrongly convicted, and then because of DNA, they were exonerated. But at the same time, it has also worked the other way, where, you know, this touch DNA or this trace DNA has happened. And okay, perfect. And has oh goodness, okay, I'm trying to think of what I need to do. Okay, I'm gonna hold off on this. I'm gonna set these guys off to the side for just a minute. I don't know why I'm getting all sidebar happy right now, because we have those. Okay, now let's do this. We are gonna do things just a little bit. Oh, that's why I wanted to put my food list down. That's what I wanted to do. What the kids will be having for dinner this week. Okay. But anyways, this case that I was listening to, they really didn't have a lot of evidence for this one person. Granted, it also, I can't say definitively, I mean, this is what they said, and I'm not going to, because they didn't give a lot of facts to the case. They told a lot of stories, but they didn't give a whole lot of facts to the case. But basically what I got from the gist of it was because this person out of the entire group had a record, and so that was the person they were going after. Okay. Understandable, but at the same time, just because somebody has a record doesn't necessarily make them a criminal. That doesn't just 100% make them a constant criminal. And I mean, I just sat here, and that's one of the things about podcasts is sometimes I'm like, as somebody who studied psychology and had to really study how we do testing in the world of psychology and everything, putting one of the things we're always talked about is confirmation bias, and ensuring that our own biases are not put into our studies, right? So that's how I go into all of these podcasts. And sometimes some of them are really, really great. And I'm like, you did an amazing job. I did not see any of your bias come out. You presented us the facts. And then there's other times that I'm just like, could your bias be a little bit more heavy? Like, and that's kind of how I felt in some of this podcast, that there was a lot of bias going on. And it's funny because one of the interviews that they took, the guy was like, will you do me a favor and please not edit this to make me look bad? But then the whole interview with that person, there wasn't a whole ton given. And so I was like, so did they edit it to make him look not bad? Like, I have some questions here, you know, and I don't like being left with questions, but I digress. At the end of the day, the person who was convicted, you know, albeit wrongly convicted, is free now. They still don't know who the person that did this. And it just got me really, you know, thinking about this whole aspect of like how it's amazing that we have DNA, but at the same time, we can't call it a 100% truth aspect. There has to be, like, I'm sorry, but detectives and courts, you got to do your due diligence. You can't just be like, oh, he's our suspect, and that's going to be the end of it. Like, that, it doesn't work that way. So there was aspects of this entire podcast that made me extremely frustrated and extremely angry with the court systems, because I was like, that's not how it's supposed to be done. But the funniest part was one of the like their subject matter experts came in, and he basically was like, I keep raising my fees and you guys keep calling me in. And I was just like, that kind of confidence and arrogance, it's so infuriating, but it's so funny at the same time. But it's like, he knows, like, you guys keep asking me to come, I keep raising my fees, like, you guys aren't even doing your own side of figuring things out. You're just constantly going back to the same person, which is fine. But at the same time, like, I don't think he wants to be a part of it anymore, but he keeps getting subpoenaed and called. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on this podcast. I listened to this last week. Like I said, it made me a little bit mad, made me a little bit frustrated. Kind of is what it is. But yeah, as somebody who values and loves science and loves to watch, like, I love to like dive into some of like the history aspects to see where we have come from. And I am in complete compliance and agreement that what you have now is what you have to go off of, and at any time it could change. But I wish more people, specifically law, would understand that, instead of being like, this is it, this is all we have. And I don't know exactly how to go about how you would prevent that from happening, because like I said, it's one of those things that now you know, once you know better, you do better type thing. But you don't know if this is going to be like the end of it all, or if there's going to be more. So I don't know. It's just a lot of philosophical thinking, and I just kind of wanted to get that off my chest. Not that I have any solutions or anything to it, because I don't. It was just one of those things. All right, let's see. I'm trying to think here how I want to do all of this. And what do I have? Okay, so I have these boxes and I have these boxes. Okay, perfect. So I can use these boxes on the end weekend. Yeah, I am kind of doing this whole, what would you call it? Very, very structured style of this week, just because I love the full boxes and I want to really be able to get them in here and make sure that we've we've got all of this. So we'll put the kids' food off to the bottom. Sidebar will be filled. Now that I've gotten all the glitter headers down. Ooh, I should have switched those. I wonder if I can. Can I peel? Will you be forgiving? Okay. Thank you. Slightly forgiving. A little bit forgiving. There we go. Should have switched these two, although that is a red. I think I'll just totally switch out this color altogether. How does that sound? But yeah, but you know, continuing on with podcasts and my whole philosophical aspect, I mean, I don't know if I would be able to, because I go down rabbit holes. So I would, if I was a podcaster, I would be afraid that all of my episodes would be way too long and go on for hours, and be multiple parts. Like, that's just kind of how I feel, because that's when I get into something, I get into something. So, all right, let's take a look here. We want to do all 4 of these patterns. Now that we have our glitter headers done, let's go ahead and get glitter headers here, and then I can put the full boxes that I want to down. However, the only thing I'm worried about is, am I going to have enough room to put a box there to put the week it's supposed to be? I don't know. Well, we can figure out something. We can figure out something. I don't know if I want to use that. We'll figure it out here in just a minute as we go through getting all this done. All right. I am definitely going to kind of try and fit as many boxes as I possibly can into all of this. So let's see. Am I gonna be successful? I don't know. We'll see. I might. Oh, very, very close. Very, very close. Am I okay with it going over? I think I'm okay with it going over. Okay, that's fine. So, but yeah, because I have a tendency to go down rabbit holes, which is not always the greatest thing, because then you're constantly going down rabbit holes. But it's fascinating. So a lot of the times when I'm listening to a podcast, in fact, actually, this kit is kind of bringing up that whole notion. So I love this movie. Growing up, I mean, granted, I am, you know, I did my teen years in the 90s. So this is kind of one of those things that if you're a millennial, I should say an elder millennial, and definitely a younger Gen Xer, this was very much part of your pop culture, what you did, right? So when I was listening to one of my podcasts and I came across, because not always do I listen to it in sequential order. Sometimes I'll bounce around and just see kind of like, ooh, that name, you know, interests me or whatnot. Like, ooh, that type stuff, right? Like, I'll look at it and be like, oh my goodness, what's this about? And there was one that was titled like Scream Murders, the murder of Cassie Jo Stoddart. And I was like, what? And I listened to it, and it happened back in 2006 in Pocatello, Idaho. Now in 2006, I was becoming a mom for the first time. I was in San Diego. So I never even heard of this case. I'm sure it was in the news and whatnot, but I never heard of it because, like I said, I was becoming a mom for the first time. I was in the military. So sometimes some of the news stuff I just never heard, right? So when I was listening to this, I was like, holy cow. Essentially, these two boys who are horrendous and awful in all the ways, decide that they are going to kill this girl. She's over at her aunt's house, I believe. She's a high schooler. And basically what they do is they cut the power off and work to scare her, and they ended up stabbing her like 30 times, I want to say. It's been a long time since I've listened to this to the podcast that had all of these facts. And I haven't didn't do any research before I came on here, so I'm just kind of getting it from memory alone. So, you know, if I mess up on something, my apologies. But yeah, she, you know, and some of it was, you know, I mean, these two guys were horrible. One guy was like, oh, I didn't really think he was going to go through with it. And I think he was a getaway driver. And yeah, and it's just awful. It's like, why, you know, I mean, they were big horror movie fans. They wanted to make a horror movie out of this type stuff. And it was just like, come on. Like, if you're going to do something, be original, man. Not that I'm condoning any of that stuff, but, like, when was the one, maybe it was afterwards, so maybe they capitalized off of it. I mean, I don't know. It just, the way that it just sounded is that they were trying to capitalize off of things that had already been done in the most horrific manner possible. But they end up, you know, getting caught because they're dumb, and they go through sentencing and all of that, and their sentencing ends up being that they have to, they get life without parole, which I'm like, good. That's what needed to happen. So I think I'm going to use one of these boxes. I'm going to have to lift this up. I'm going to have to lift this one up. I'm going to have to lift this other one up. But yeah, I mean, they were just literally kind of did what they did in the opening scene of Scream, and that's just horrible and horrendous. But I love my podcasts, and I'll continue watching them as of. Okay, so that's where we'll put the week. But I figured I'd talk about something different than what's going on in my life, because nothing fantastic is going on in my life right now, except for being busy working and trying to get move stuff. So yeah, I have no problem if you guys want to hear my perspective on any of the cases I have listened to and whatnot, because I have listened to a couple of the same ones, and it's very interesting hearing somebody else's perspective. Like, very interesting hearing somebody else's perspective after you've listened to one perspective. I'm just going to put these down here because, first off, this is like amazing artwork, and I want to have as much of it as I possibly can in here. So on these full box, or these larger deco boxes, I am going to put some clip art down because I don't need a ton of room to write on some of these days, because it is just memory keeping, and a lot of times it's just what they did. So, but if you guys want to hear my take, I'd be more than happy to give my take on things. I mean, not that we need everybody's opinions and stuff, but it's always interesting to get a different take from it. And like I said, I have gone down rabbit holes on some of these things, so who knows? Anyways, I am kind of rambling here and just trying to figure out what I want to do next with my YouTube channel. So give me ideas of what you would like to see, and we can merge the two in together. I clearly have no problem talking. But yeah, here we go. All right, this week is done. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a classic, and knew when I saw it, it had to go into my 52 weeks of Halloween planner because it's very nostalgic. So, all right, I am done filming for the day, which is super nice. I'm gonna go help my husband with the pool. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this plan with me, please give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye now.